Thank you for staying with us. Internal democracy in political parties. On Thursday, President Muhammadu Buhari dissolved the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress, APC, called for immediate suspension of all pending litigation involving the party and its members, as well as the ratification of the party's governorship primary election recently conducted in Edo State. He appointed a caretaker committee for the party in a bid to resolve recent crisis within the party structure. What does that say about internal party democracy? Where are the political parties going? You do remember that not quite long ago, INEC rested some parties, deregistered some parties. They went to court, and the court insisted INEC was right. The question of party ideology has been one thing a lot of people have always talked about, but at the end of the day, when they come together, how is it working out, putting the house together? To help us answer all of these questions, I have here a legal practitioner, a social commentator, and maybe in the course of the conversation, a member of the All Progressives Congress will join us from our Abuja studio. But here in Lagos, we have Chief Godwill Wazirike, who's a legal practitioner. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Also here is Chief Biodun Showumi, social commentator.
Good morning.
I remember the last time you came here, you reminded us that you are an Oba. Have you been installed yet?
No. Elect.
Still waiting.
Yeah.
Okay, an Oba elect. Okay. So, gentlemen, let me start with you. In the course of this last week, in fact, before this last week, where the president, well, some say stepped in to calm the stormy waters in the party, things were a little bit here and there. And what's going on? What's happening?
Yeah, one of the major problems we have in the country since 1999 is the issue of internal democracy within the political parties and conflict resolution. Yes, all political parties, including the APC, have their own means of resolving issues structured into their party, but we have seen what happened last week or prior to the president's intervention is the collapse or the non-functioning of the internal conflict resolution mechanisms of the APC. It didn't work, and then necessitating steps being taken by the president, whether you agree or not, with a view to resolve the crisis of the party. So what you have, just like in any other political party, is intense competition for power, by stakeholders within those political framework, trying to control leadership. Then you have the issue of, which could also mean affecting the nomination of candidates for future offices. And being the ruling party, of course, you have the issue of appointee offices. These are the three major issues always in contention within the ruling party. So when you look at the issue with APC just before the president's intervention, it's majorly around the leadership issue and whether Oshiomhole should remain as the leader of the party or he has been removed as sanctioned by the court, and whether the acting deputy national secretary could be the acting chairman, as again ruled by the court, or the constitution stipulated the deputy national chairman, one of the deputy national chairman should preside. So you have that crisis between court's intervention in internal political matters on leadership within a political party, and also the politicians themselves also resisting, court adjudicated settled positions, which have not been overturned, also resisting that, citing their own constitution. The general framework is that courts usually, refrain from getting involved in the internal organization of a political party. But when it now breaks down, like what we saw before the president's intervention, then the courts in some cases would tend to get involved, because we all know that political crisis could affect, the stability of the country, the social harmony, and it could also impact, on governance, in the sense that we've seen that once between the executive and legislative face-off, affecting budget, affecting governance in different ways, affecting confirmation of people into appointive offices. So because of that, judiciary at times tends to delve into it. So what we have seen, as demonstrated before last week, is the failure of even judicial intervention to resolve the problem because of conflicting judgments and the issues of jurisdiction, obtaining judgment in Port Harcourt and obtaining one in Abuja, from courts of coordinate powers. So that is what we've seen played out within the APC that necessitated, the intervention which we saw.
Okay, we've been joined by Honorable Eseme Ibo, a former spokesperson of the House of Representatives and the chairman of the Cross River Basin Development Authority. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Honorable Ibo, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I am pleased to be with you this morning.
Thank you. You're looking quite fresh, but are you feeling also fresh about the happenings in your party?
Well, I must tell you that as a party man, I will be unfair to myself and the party to say I am happy. But it's not unexpected. Of course, this is the harvest of what we've always been talking about, the issue of recruitment process into people in various institutions, be it political or in issues of governance. When you are talking about the crisis in a political party, it's not only APC. You have it in PDP, you have it in other places. This is a function of a situation where political parties are no longer political parties, so to speak. They are now political organizations funded, managed, and of course promoted by certain interests, which of course their intention is not necessarily to advance the pursuit of democratic culture and values, but for self-interest. Now, the background of this is very clear. For example, when you begin to have congresses of political parties at various levels, at ward, at local government, and of course the state and national, of course it is the list of the governors. There's just no way you can have a list approved during congresses without the governor contributing 90%. And when once they contribute, if it is a local government congress, if it is a state congress, at the end of it, when they are going to national convention, it's these same people. So you will see aspirants to the party chairmanship or any other leadership position in the political parties going for campaigns in government houses. They go to the government to secure support. And then during the convention, the governors will just give these words around. He said, look, this is the person we are having for national chairman, we have this for national secretary, and all of that. That is the pattern. And the people will emerge. So at the end of the day, he who pays the pipers dictates the tune. So you would definitely be having conflict of interest. This position has been going on for God knows how long. The governors are the leaders of the party. And I don't know how we came about it. At the end of the day, it's these governors who will determine the leaders of the political parties, the managers of the political parties, from the ward level to the national.
Okay, Honorable Ibo, we'll take a moment here. When we come back, we'll find out the legal implication of all of this from Chief Uwazurike, who is in our legal studio. Back in a moment, just stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have Honorable Ibo in our Abuja studio, Chief Uwazurike here in Lagos, and Chief Shomi also here in Lagos. Chief Uwazurike, you're a legal practitioner, and this whole matter, before we went on that break, Honorable Ibo was talking about the issues with leadership recruitment process. Talks about what happens at the World Congresses in almost all the political parties in Nigeria. For a World Congress to happen, the governors who are the leaders or the elected officials who are considered leaders of the party at different levels sort of contribute the names that go for the different congresses, whether at the ward level, local government, state, and federal. And at the end of the day, because they pay the piper, they dictate the tune. What does the Constitution or what do the laws have to say about this?
Well, the law presumes that everybody coming to a convention is coming with an open and free mind. But in reality, a delegate is sponsored. He is handpicked. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. 'Handpicked. 'Forget this thing they say about electing delegates. In reality, the puppet masters, they are the governors, they are Mr. President, they are Mr. Secretary. They are the ones who determine who holds what. So there are also good chess masters. They play chess. Let me just give you one small example. When Oshiomhole was elected, there was a position for organizing secretary allocated to Southeast. Rochas Okorocha said, look, as the only APC governor, I must produce somebody. The person there also came from Imo State, in fact, from Rochas Okorocha's own senatorial zone. And the man wanted to come back. The governor said, no, I want somebody else. Ema, oh yeah, you be there. Before we knew it, court case down, up, down, eventually they said, let us settle. Ema stayed back. That is party politics for you, and that's why I say politicians are a species of creation. They manipulate a lot. Now, look at the present state of affairs that just happened during this week. Before the governors, some decided to speak, some did not speak at all. Each one had a certain conclusion in mind. If you remember the species of court cases, one in Port Harcourt, the other one in this and that, ex parte, in the hope that you get a weak judge. A weak judge, I say that with all honesty, because the moment you file a case, everything stops. But a weak judge will say, okay, I hereby grant an injunction, which now sends the wrong message. And once that starts, now you have contradictory orders flying left and right. Now,
Even from courts of competent jurisdiction.
yes, because all the judge will say that what is before me. He's not interested in what is before another person. He says, based on the affidavit we have. But if you remember, when Obasanjo was president, you had a party known as APP first, then ANPP. A day to their national convention, a judge in Abuja, based on expert application, stopped the convention. The NJC then came in and dismissed the judge. After that, judges became careful. I'm talking of nearly 20 years now, so many of them have forgotten what happened. So when a judge issues an ex parte order stopping a convention, he's actually putting himself on the dock. And when we have an active NJC, National Judicial Council, they will zero in on him. You're not supposed to prove that he took bribe or he didn't take bribe. All you have to say is he did not exercise his powers judicially and in national interest. Now, but back to why delegates don't have the freedom. He who pays the piper dictates the tune. So quite often, you find all those people at National Working Committee, National Executive Council, being loyal to the person who put them there, pandering to the person who has the power to remove them. Because those who put them there may not be powerful enough to remove them anymore. And again, you have a party chairman who did not see far enough to see the obstacles. National Executive Committee is supposed to meet every quarter, at least twice a year. But if you have a full year passing, then you have vacancies occurring in those positions. For instance, Deputy National Chairman South. What happened? He has been nominated. He's acting. For him to be a member of the National Executive Council or to even head a party must have been elected at a national convention. Is there in black and white? But they pretend that that's not the position. You have a national secretary. He was not elected. Therefore, he's an acting. You pretend he is actually the national secretary. That is wrong. So, as K.O. Mbadiwo of blessed memory will say, when the comes to become, we now know who is who.
Honorable Abel, let me come back to you again. This matter of party structure, and you've always talked about it for all the years I've known you. You've always talked about the leadership recruitment process. If it's done right, everything will fall into place. But in the middle of that process, there's something that you politicians always talk about, party supremacy. If the party is indeed supreme, that means the leadership of the party determines how the party runs. The leadership there being the chairman, whether national or state or local government or ward chairman, as the case may be. They determine how the elected officials should behave to sustain the image of the party and the ideology of the party, not the elected official telling them how they should run it. That's if the party is really supreme. So the question is the party really supreme?
Well, I won't just come up to say the party is supreme or not. But what I want us to appreciate is that, first and foremost, what is the intended purpose of democratic governance? And what's democracy? Democracy is expected to be the government of the people, for the people, by the people. But in our climb here, we have adjusted the meaning of democracy to the abetment of the tyranny of the minority by the majority. Since sovereignty belongs to the people are the majority. But the people have tended to abet the tyranny of the minority. Who are these people we are complaining about? So democracy involves participation. By the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 25, it is espoused clearly about the issue of participation. And our Constitution even went ahead to emphasize that the primary purpose of government shall be the security and the welfare of the people. So the people are expected to participate in who governs and how they should be governed. So political party management, of course, you cannot take away the fact that you talk about supremacy of the party. The supremacy of the party is only lipstickish within the context of our convenience. But if you move a little bit away from there, you will realize that the proponents of the supremacy of the party, as it were, never intended what the destitutes of democratic values are practicing today. So our political parties, of course, are only parties within the context of registration as a political party. But within the context of democracy, what we have, of course, are not political parties. They are political organizations organized, managed, and put together by politicians of identical plumage to further their personal pursuits, and it has nothing to do with the people. So supremacy of the party, I want to rightly say, and I stand to be corrected, is of course non-existent. It is slipstickish.
Mr. Oshiomhole, I mean, growing up, I do know my mother used to be in the NPN. She had her membership card, and she paid her dues. I mean, you could actually see where she was going to the ward office to pay her party dues, and you see her card, you see, and all of that. Until today, she's over 80. She still talks about her party card. But if indeed, as Honorable Eyibo has said, party supremacy is lipstickish, those were his words, how do we resolve all of this?
Yeah, to some extent, I would have to support Honorable Eyibo. You only need to go back and look at how we came into the Fourth Republic. We came in through a process midwifed by the military. The military, in their own usual military culture, are used to giving orders and is being obeyed, not to be challenged by members or in any form. There is no any form of party organization or party supremacy. What the head of state says, is final. And then we now saw so many of those military actors, they came into the Fourth Republic with even the former head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, emerging, as the president in 1999. Do not forget they are used to military culture. So they've never been deacculturalized, or acculturalized into democratic norms or deacculturalized out of the military norms. So they came in with the military culture, and then that affected democratic governance. Immediately what we witnessed was the deinstitutionalization of political parties, in terms of even its mode of conflict resolution. Immediately we see issues like altering rules, intimidation and all that. So all this happened because their usual military culture and military tactics, and then they were imported into their own system. So therefore, when you look at it from the Fourth Republic, how do you talk about party supremacy when the president, has the final say? Again, if you look at precisely what happened with the way the APC crisis has been resolved, you have a situation where cases are still in courts, and politicians are still politicking, but the president, intervened as the leader, as the supreme leader, as described in some publications of the APC, even though the constitution says the chairman of the party is the leader. And then the whole structure, the NWC dissolved, rightly or wrongly. I'm not arguing for either, but when you take it into consideration, you will realize that there is nothing called party supremacy within the context of this Fourth Republic. Either you look at it as under the PDP led by Obasanjo, or under the APC led by Buhari's administration. What you see is that the wishes of the leaders of those parties, often triumph. And that does not necessarily translate into, the interest of party members, and therefore could not, be ascribed to be party supremacy. A lot of it are their intervention are based on exigencies, to achieve particular goals, not necessarily to achieve, party supremacy. So that concept is nebulous, when you look at it within the context realities of what we call the Fourth Republic.
Chief Wazuike, he's talked about the fact that coming from military era and all of that might have played a role. But I tried to do a little bit of calculation here. For every one former military personnel who's now a politician, there are at least 5 civilians who are politicians. So there are fewer in number. So is there no way that, I thought the majority, a few might have their say, but majority will take the vote? Well, and then what do the laws say about this party membership?
Well, let me just go back in history. Before the French Revolution, we had a president of King of France, the Sun King. That's what he's formerly called. One day, he came and said, oh yes, France will do so and so. And the Secretary of State asked, my king, France has not decided. Said, no, I am the state. Whatever I say is what France has said. And that is what you're witnessing now. If you go back to Thursday meeting presided over by Mr. President, he moved a motion. First thing was NWC to be dissolved. So and so to be done. And who are you to oppose him? At that moment, he was imposing his will on the party.
But you must also take into account the fact that he never said anything. He waited for internal structures to resolve whatever there was. Well, so that was like a last measure.
Internal structure,
you won't agree with that?
I would say contrived.
Okay.
Because when things are happening, you can either step in or you allow them to exhaust themselves or walk into a certain position you have in mind. That meeting was a meeting with predetermined solutions. So for him to have moved it meant he was throwing his weight into the affair and nobody would challenge him, even if you're 100 civilians. At that moment, the president and the party had become one. So today, APC and Buhari, one. And it's either you fall in or you don't fall in. You're talking of party supremacy, party membership, and so on and so forth. What causes quarrels in a party is when you are fighting for something that is right and you believe in it. The other man is fighting for something that is wrong. But if he has the ear of Mr. President, you, Mr. Right, will become Mr. Wrong. And that is what has been going on since 1999. The politicians are yet to get their acts together, and we hope that after Buhari, no more military man will be the president. The reason is very simple. We need democracy. There's no democracy today. All we have today is, what does Mr. President say? Since 2015, we have a new line. We say the language, body language of Mr. President. Jonathan and Yar'Adua, if you notice, they were civilians. They were more civil in their approach to issues. There are a lot of people to even say yes or no. But Soldiers don't tolerate anything except yes, sir. Now, every party has a constitution, and the party is supposed to be supreme. But if you're insisting on party supremacy in anything you're doing, believe me, in Nigeria today, you find yourself standing outside. And if you're not careful, EFCC will come after you. Suddenly, they will remember all the offenses. Like I said at the beginning, politicians are a special breed. They hold on to a simple statement. Before making that statement, they have programmed it. Deputy National Secretary going to court. In terms of hierarchy of the party, we know where he stood. But they did their homework very well. And the others, Adams Oshiomhole and others, were more interested in showing that Adams was also a general. He was also a major general. That was his problem, the ego. If he had learned very well, the moment he took over, he would have realized that Mr. President is taciturn, he monitors and he watches. And if he takes a position, every other person will follow. So as of today, Adams Oshiomhole and all those came up behind him are out. And when this Edo crisis was evolving slowly, he did not read the language very well. Like somebody said, avoid a village quarrel. A village quarrel can derail you when you're already riding high. Today, Obaseki is going for governorship. Adams Oshiomhole is standing outside and is asking, can I come in? And nobody's listening and nobody will give him attention. Like the governor of Kogi said last night, we'll find a place for them. In other words, we'll give them soft landing. But party supremacy in Nigeria is a mere theory. It's never in practice. The legal advisor is supposed to have a prominent position. But where was he yesterday? Well, 2 days ago when the Attorney General of the Federation was swearing party members in, which is an aberration. Malami shouldn't have done that. Attorney General of the Federation is not the legal advisor of a party. I don't know whether the legal advisor attended the meeting or not, but everything was wrong. 2, you have acting chairman of, there is a name they use for it, because Adams is still not yet removed. The language of the court is suspended, pending the determination of whether he's still a member of APC. You find the present actors being more of an aberration than the real thing, but because it is Mr. President that moved that thing, those who want to go to court can go, and they will win. But whether that winning will become a Pyrrhic victory, I don't know. But as it is today, there is no democracy in the political parties.
All right, we'll take another break, and when we come back, Honorable Ivo will be looking at how do we resolve this matter of political party membership. Should it be a written thing? What should be the criteria to be called a member of a political party? And indeed, should it be legalized? How these structures are run so that the party stays as a watchdog over the activities of the elected, which is what some will say should be the process in a democracy. We'll be back in a moment. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have Honorable Ibo here, Chief Wazirike and Chief Shomi are all here. But I have this message from Architect Nyaitok. He says, until the day party members are willing to pay membership dues that will be used to run the party and shun the false comfort of political investors, we will never have internal democracy in political parties. That's coming from Architect Nyaitok Ezekiel. Honorable Ibo, I said when we'll come back, we'll bring this to you. Let's begin to talk solution now. How do we get membership of political parties to be viable as it was in those days? My mom is over 80. She still has a membership card. I don't know what she wants to do with it. I think it's UPN. No, it's not UPN. It's NPN, yes. She still has a membership card. So how do we get membership of political parties to be viable to the extent that the party stands as a watchdog so that elected public servants live to uphold the ideals of the party on which platform they're elected?
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, I must bring to the fore one very critical issue. First, is there any political party in Nigeria with ideology? Answer is no. Political parties should be able to set up its own agenda, must have its own ideology. And it is the ideology that will persuade politicians or potential members to now find its affiliations and go through the various criteria for membership. And the absence of ideology, of course, have derobed the political parties the value and the meaning it's supposed to give to itself. What we are having, and I stand to be corrected, is not democracy. What we are having is civil rule. Because the issue of inclusion is not there at all. Political inclusion is not there at all. So we are having civil rule. So the moment we begin to attend to a couple of issues facing us, for example, when you are talking about membership of a political party, these things are spelled out in the constitution of all the political parties. But I give you an example. His Excellency, the governor of Edo State, recently joined PDP within 48 hours, and he became a candidate of that party within 48 hours. There were people who bought forms, who went through the screening, who went through the entire process. And if he was given exemption, it was given what is it? I'll come back to that. If he was given exemption or the clearance, how would that affect his candidature? He ought to have first and foremost be cleared. He ought to have foremost be given the clearance by the national, but not giving him the party ticket even before they brought in the waiver. I meant to say the waiver. Yes. He had the waiver after he had already become a candidate. So what happened to those people who were party members, participated in the entire process, paid their dues and all of that? So it has nothing to do with any law. The Electoral Act is rich. The Electoral Act is rich. The extent of its enforcement and the extent of enforcement and implementation is the other problem. And one thing we must not pretend about is that we have 4 unregistered political parties in this country, and their interests are so strong. For example, INEC in itself, in a political process, is an unregistered political party. It doesn't pretend. Wherever it has interest, and of course, it invests so much into that interest. The security agencies at some point will also not pretend of their interest. And then, of course, some persons in the judiciary, as my brother Wazirike have just said, there are some judges who have interest, and they said, with the facts before me, it's always before me. So these people intervene, participate, promote, and influence political process. So the issue of membership is neither here nor there. You begin to see people moving from APC to PDP, from PDP to APC overnight and getting tickets to run the election. That is to mean that these are political organizations serving as only the primary purpose of serving only as a vehicle to advance the pursuit of its managers or its promoters.
Okay, Honorable, I'm afraid we'd have to bring in the others because we have to go in the next. I understand we have less than 2 minutes to end this segment. So let me just get the 2 chiefs here to weigh in on this so that we can go. Chief Wazirike.
Well, you know, like Honorable said, Governor Obaseki jumped and moved. Izzy Yamu is today the APC candidate carrying their flag. Has Izzy Yamu resigned from PDP? I don't know. All we know is that he has joined PDP, APC. Nobody heard of him resigning. But then if we are talking of party supremacy, allowing the law to direct how members behave, then we ask Mr. President, because it is on his desk today, to lead by example.
Okay.
What is very clear is that one major layer to join political parties today is the free perception of free access, to public wealth. And as long as that remains, we won't have political parties serving the interest of the country. So therefore, we need to find a situation, a way the civil society organizations need to advocate, for, reducing, cutting the cost of democratic governance in terms of reducing the salaries of all elected office holders in a way that monetary gains will not be a motivation for wanting to join a political party, but actually the will to serve your community should be the driving force.
Thank you very much, Chief Biodun Shomi, social commentator and also an Oba-elect. Chief Godru Azuike, a legal practitioner, and Honorable Eseme Ibo, former spokesperson, House of Representatives, and the chairman of the Cross River Basin Development Authority. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts today.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
So, as we'll be back in a moment, do stay with us.